We were just discussing Jason's Daily. We're not going to have the usual opening because people who are devoted fans of the show, they know what they're in for. So, anyway, we're just discussing how great Jason's Deli was when it first came to town and how it went downhill and we don't go there anymore.
That and COVID salad bar spread out.
Yeah, but even before all that, I just got tired of it.
Remember we used to go to Zim's Bakery and they would charge by the pound? Zim's Bakery. They used to, bagel place. They used to have a salad bar and they would charge by the pound. And
I don't remember
they charged like $11 for us to have a salad there one day. So when I was working at this one place, I used to go to Jason's Deli and get the salad to go. And I came back and I weighed the salad. It was 3 pounds and like 5 ounces. And it had been for a flat fee of like $8.99. And that was great because they also had, remember, they have the pudding and they have the bread and they have the hummus and all that kind of stuff.
Where was Zim's at?
Zim's was down in Beechwood.
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever ate there. I mean, I think I wanted to, but it was so expensive.
Yeah, it was insanely expensive for the salad bar.
That's a long time ago.
Of course, now we get 6 bagels for $1.50 all.
Yeah, but they're shitty bagels.
They're really good. Peter and I had bagels.
They're not fresh. They're just,
They're great. You toast them twice. They've got all the bagel seasoning stuff on them, all the everything stuff.
Well, I think Zim's was one of these places that was,
Local.
right, it was like encouraged and patronized by the local pseudo-hippie community.
The Beechwood community.
Yeah, I forgot about all that.
You know what else was good down in that shopping center was the Harris Teeters.
Yeah.
One of those things that was really good for a while, and then it started going downhill. Remember, we used to go there and get the stuffed grape leaves?
Yeah.
And we used to get muffins there and bagels there.
I think that's where they had the bread pudding, too.
Oh, I don't remember that. Do you remember the plum pudding I made recently? The plum cake?
Tort.
And the bread was like bread pudding?
Yeah, it was good for a while it lasted, that Harris Teeter's place, because they had the bread. They had this big display where you could get bread, bagels and rolls and stuff.
Even Publix has gone downhill. They used to have the bakery that had the cheese and onion bread and the mushroom and cheese breads. Do you remember going to those?
No.
And then it was like a focaccia sort of thing. And it was a large round thing. It was probably like 8 inches by 6 inches. And it was greasy. It was wickedly greasy.
I'm still stunned about the Zim's thing because I haven't thought about that place in years. I guess we should do a little roundup.
Oh God!
We just stopped by. We left a little early because we wanted to get a little shot. Oh, by the way, they reinstituted the no overtime thing after 2 days of relaxing the rules. So I'm kind of going in at the regular time, but we did leave early so we could stop by Walmart where our daughter works. Today's her 25th birthday, so went and gave her a hug and bought a couple of things. But I had a 5-day weekend, so I got so much done. Well, what happened was I already had Thursday night off for a medical appointment, but in addition to that, on the way home, it was on the way home, wasn't it? That Tuesday morning we found out about the no overtime thing, right?
No, it was after we
got home, yeah. But anyway, I got pissed off and called in, so.
More than that, though, you've been absolutely exhausted.
Nobody from corporate is going to listen to this thing and go, aha, we have him now. Anyway, so I had a 5-day weekend.
So you're saying you aren't exhausted. You've been exhausted.
Well, I have FMLA, folks, so if I feel the slightest bit of fatigue, I'm going to take advantage of it up to a point. But anyway.
It didn't help. They approved overtime, and then you started doing 9 hours again, and it pushes you to your limits. And you hurt your back last Sunday night. And by the time you drug yourself off the floor the last day you worked, you were moaning, and Marie was even like, what the hell's wrong with you?
That last day I worked, I walked out of there like, limping and moaning. But anyway, so I got so much done this weekend, and
we had a birthday celebration.
Yeah, our kids' birthdays are almost exactly the same day, so they turned 23 and 25 in the last couple of days. So we had Chinese food and 2 different cakes
on 2 different days.
Yeah, and something else.
Do you remember why we have 2 different cakes?
Because the kids like 2 different things.
No, it's because when I was growing up, my sister and I had almost the same birthday, and I was 16 before I finally got my first birthday cake all by myself. It was the Sweet 16 cake. And I said, if I ever have kids, my kids, I don't care how, if they're born on the same day, they have 2 different cakes.
Well, my 17th birthday, I think it was 17. My mother said something about, this is a special birthday. 17's a special birthday. Huh. So, in the afternoon, we had a big party, and all my closest male friends came. Sorry, I got something in my throat. And I had this 62 or 63 Impala. And after we had the cake and everything, we watched Blade Runner together, and we went out for a ride in that car, and we ripped up a turn signal sign or something. What's the curve ahead sign, and put it in the back of the car or something. I can't remember what it was exactly, but that's how I celebrated my turning 17.
Committing a crime.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I always remember Richard running down the road holding that sign. Oh my God, I bet if I told Mitch about that, he'd still remember it.
I never had any memorable birthdays outside of that 16th. Everybody, like when my kids turned 21, it wasn't any big deal because we always had the policy of, if you want to drink, you know? I mean, of course, neither one of them are big drinkers at all. And even when, I came of age, it wasn't a big deal because I'd been going downtown drinking since I was like 15 or 16. Of course,
Well, girls can get away with that.
Well, it wasn't a big deal because back then the drinking age was 18 and then it graduated into 21. So and my dad also had the policy of, if you want a little pony beer, you can have one and half a glass of wine. Oh, and Kahlua to help you go to sleep, which never made sense to me.
Yeah, when I started drinking, it was just such a big deal to get completely snoggered.
Of course, you were from a family who had 0 tolerance to alcohol.
Yeah. But I remember Eddie and I sitting in my car, parked.
You're not allowed to say his name.
Parked downtown in my car, sitting, just plastered.
Shit-faced.
And I don't know how many. Even later, when I became a full-blown alcoholic, I never got that drunk. I was always just kind of got to stay a little bit drunk in order to keep from being, frazzled. But my God.
How old were you when you had your first drink? I was 11.
I was.
Drink without parents' permission.
It was the day I turned 19.
Wow. How did you manage that?
Well,
because it was 21 at that point for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. The guy whose name you don't want me to mention, yes. We went to De Palma's when it was just downtown, and he had a fake ID. So he ordered a Grolsch, and we're sitting there eating, and he said, so you've never had alcohol? You've never had a beer? You've never tasted it? No. He goes, just try it. No, I won't. No. And he goes, well, just put your finger in the foam and lick the finger so you'll know what it tastes like. I'm like, okay, fine. So I did it, and it was like somebody kicking open the door, you know, like, oh, I'm a man of the world now. I can do what I want.
That was a girl.
So the next, if it was that night or the next day, he had a 6-pack or a case of Miller Lite. And that's what I first really drank. Yeah, I know. But I had one. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to start drinking. It was like a decision. Now I will start being a big drinker. And Mitch and I were living in that my grandmother's old house, and Richard would stop by once in a while, and he knew 2 girls he worked with at must have been UGA, I think. And anyway, he said they can get you whatever you want. So I gave him a shopping list. Jack Daniels, Kahlua, some other shit, beer. And they came back with a great big paper sack full of stuff, and just started sampling all this crap. Okay, now think about this. I started drinking when I was 19, but it really got going in earnest when I turned 21. And by the time I was 22, I was a full-blown alcoholic with would get the shakes, DTs, if I didn't get a drink. What about that?
That's bad. Of course, you come from a family of drunks, so.
Yeah. And
and on the other side, one of the family names is Mashburn, which I always thought was amusing.
Yeah.
Burn the mash.
Yeah, I don't know what. I think that was a family name from way further back.
Like Ireland or something.
Could be, yeah. Ooh, some junk on the side of the road back there.
Alright, I need to get over.
Alright, beyond all that, that's a depressing topic. We won't talk about that anymore.
So Peter had his birthday last week, middle of the week. What did we have? Oh, he had a red velvet cake with cream cheese.
That was the best red velvet cake I've had ever, probably.
Pecans, lots of pecans on it.
Well, the reason the red velvet cake, I don't normally like it, but that was good because the icing was different from the usual crap they put on red velvet cake.
Well, it was homemade, sweetie.
Yeah, it just tasted better. It wasn't that.
It also had a very nice layer of pecans ground up on it. And then Reed had the better than cake. And it's just a pudding cake with 2 types of chocolate chips in it. And black chocolate pudding in a yellow cake mix.
Yeah, I want you to make that with the vanilla pudding next time you do it. No, don't make anything special attempt, but because I think the vanilla is really good.
Oh, Peter got books, and he got a game. The game of
Right.
The 5,000-year-old game from Samaria, which I picked out because I thought it was really cool. It's just basically a chase around the board kind of game.
I was looking up something about Egypt. I can't remember what it was, but they mentioned the game of Senet. Senet.
Yes. I looked at that too. It's very similar, apparently.
Yeah. I wish I had time to get into all this. I used to be a big board game enthusiast.
I was hoping that Peter would have us play with him, but he didn't seem to.
I just don't have time for all that anymore.
Normally, we would take the kids out for 2 separate meals for their birthdays. One for Peter's, one for Reed's. But this year, with COVID and the financial restrictions being what they are, we just picked up Chinese to go. It was their choice. So we had vegetable lo mein with fried tofu and their excellent egg rolls. Oh, by the way, I found where I can buy the Chinese mustard online if you want me to buy that Chinese mustard.
No, it's no big deal. Oh, man. Next time we get a chance, I want to go up to Atlanta and hit the Buford Highway Farmers Market and go to that Korean grocery store thing I don't know, maybe some new ones. So, like, we haven't been to the Hong
The
Kong.
one that Gwinnett, that Korean restaurant?
Yeah. But they
That is kick ass.
we haven't been to
The vegetable buns, steamed vegetable buns there.
the other one. I just mentioned it.
The one off Jimmy Carter?
Oh, yeah, the Hong Kong market. We haven't been there in forever.
That's the one that had the frogs and the turtles and stuff.
Live for
Oh,
sale,
God.
yeah. For
It was very disturbing.
they also are the ones that had that soap that I really liked. It had the good smell.
Oh, was it the pink Camay stuff?
Pink Camay,
Woohoo!
girly soap from the 70s. Old lady soap, but it has a good smell. Back when I was a kid, they had this, I don't know what she was, German or Swedish woman that was the spokesman on the commercials for Camay soap, and I hated her. Something about her just gave me the creeps. Her accent and her olderness. Speaking of which, I'll tell you something funny. When I was about first or second grade, my parents had a big party. When I was a kid, my parents were involved in all kinds of community clubs and stuff, like the JCs and everything. Anyway, they had a big party, and they had like a buffet laid out. And there was this lady there, I don't know who it was, but she had a low-cut dress, and she had this big line of cleavage. And I was mesmerized by it. I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like that before.
I thought your Aunt Gertie, or what was her name? Gertie May had something like that.
No, her big thing for me that gave me the willies was she blew smoke out of her nostrils. And I just thought, that is just from like Mars or something. It blew my mind. I remember one time, it was over at when my grandparents lived in Monroe, that house had no air conditioning, so they had screen doors to get airflow. And my parents and my grandparents and my Uncle Jimmy and his wife Gertie May were all sitting around the kitchen table talking, and I'm playing out in the backyard, and I just go up to the back porch, and I happen to be standing at the screen door, about to enter, I think, when I heard Gertie May say about her oldest daughter. She said, "And Robin's getting her boobs," and I just wigged out and just slammed I just ran off, and they all started laughing at me.
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh my
Boobies.
God. Yeah. Just talk about something so frankly that it's supposed to be held in, occult. Oh my goodness. I have a whole store fund of memories. And Bonnie gets sick of hearing all these old stories.
I think I probably wigged your parents out breastfeeding the kids.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because I would always have to go sit off somewhere and away from them and cover myself up. Whereas at home, just like whip it out and feed the child. When Reed, our first, came along, she lost an ounce or two over a week period. And the doctor's like, "You were breastfeeding her exclusively?" I said, "Yes." And he was an Indian doctor who I love and adore. He goes, "Show me you can breastfeed." I went, "Okie dokie." He goes, "Okay, good." He goes, "She's falling asleep." He goes, "You need to tickle her ear." And takes his finger and puts it in front of his ear where that little knot is. He goes, "This is the way my mother kept me awake." And I looked, and that whole area was distended and really enlarged on him. And I was like, oh God, my daughter's got that weird thing. But I would do things. I would tickle her little feet and stuff to keep her awake. Because she was the laziest child. She's still lazy. And she just sleeps and sleeps and sleeps. And she was that way when she was born. She still is.
Yeah. Oh, no, my mother didn't breastfeed us.
My mother did not breastfeed us either.
Yeah. That was not the thing at the time.
That's shameful.
Well,
Your sister didn't breastfeed her children.
That generation of people, they were raised to believe that formula is so much more nutritious or whatever, and breastfeeding is, part of our animal instincts, and we need to shun that. And
well, when I was working overseas, that was trendy. you had these women that wanted to have the formula because that was more the wealthy woman's kind of thing. And these were women who are just dirt poor. I mean, third world country. And we were like, no, you need to feed your children, breastfeed them. You don't have to spend the money, and the children will be better off and they'll be healthier. But no, they would go out of their way to get formula and lose money doing that instead of just breastfeeding their children. It was very frustrating.
Yeah, well.
Of course, these were also areas where they aspired to be lighter skinned, and that's one thing that bothered me to no end. They would spend money on skin lightening creams. And I remember one of my co-workers, Annette, she was marrying one of the local doctors, and I said, how does his family like you? She goes, oh, she said they loved her because she was a white woman, and they would have even paler grandchildren. It was like some kind of aspirational bullshit, trying to get light-skinned babies. Like,
well, speaking of which,
awful.
something similar. When I was about, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there, I had lost a lot of weight. What are you looking at?
Those tacky lights.
Oh, we had a trampoline in the backyard, and I would sunbathe on the trampoline.
Oh,
and
my God.
I would get really dark, and sometimes when I knew nobody was home, I would sunbathe nude out there. And I had blonded my hair. I put peroxide in my hair, and everybody just hated it. The boy dyeing his hair, oh God! And but then at some point,
you realize how bad it's for you.
Yeah, I just decided, oh, this is really bad to sunbathe or to get a dark tan like that. So I stopped, and when I stopped tanning, that was the opposite thing. Oh, you're so pale. Oh, God. And this whole idea of a healthy tan that my parents' generation had is just Looney Tunes. Huh. Because, I don't know how, I mean, I got a lot of Irish heritage, so you don't have much melanin in your skin.
You pasty boy.
Reed has a nice olive skin. I always had sort of olive skin.
Does. She's tan with brown highlights. Whereas my family, it's like this mixed bag of either you're white or you're dark skinned. And some of them so much so that I was telling you about this, I guess, the other week. My great grandmother had to undergo purity test, so to speak, because she had to prove her heritage, because one of her uncles, great uncles, had a slave woman that he kept and had children with, and he acknowledged her in the will and the children in the will. And so it was a big scandal that the Zieglers had black offspring that were legally acknowledged. And so my great-grandmother ended up having to basically say, yes, it was his sister, Catherine Ziegler, that was her grandmother, but she was white, but she had a hard time because she was so dark-skinned. She was olive-skinned. She had a very prominent, very Roman nose, and very deep-set eyes, and she just looked very ethnic. And so they had to undergo certain things. But with Maymay's family, you've seen the pictures of the children there. There are 4 children, and 2 of them are dark-skinned and 2 of them are light-skinned.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm 1/16 Cherokee, or Indian. I don't know if it's Cherokee or Creek, one of the two, probably Cherokee. But anyway, a couple years ago, I made a comment online saying that I was not entirely white. I'm 1/16 Cherokee, and somebody made this snotty reply saying, "Oh, that's such a white thing to say." Well, here's the thing: 1/16 is about 12-something%. So 12-something% of my DNA is from this other ethnic or racial or some other category.
But we grew up.
Now, listen. Humans and chimpanzees are like 99% similar genetically. So and you see what a difference that makes. So to say, oh well, that little bit of Cherokee doesn't factor in, it does factor in. It's part of who you are. It affects your genetics. Affect not just what you look like, but how you think and all this other shit.
But see, here in the South, if you were 1/16th, 1/8th, if you had a drop of colored blood, is what they call it back then you were considered black.
In Louisiana, there was a state law. If you were 1/32nd, you were all black. Right.
And that's why the New Orleans society had so many different gradations and levels of acceptance. They apparently were fine with the Creole thing. They embraced that difference. And the rest of the state was like, oh no, you're black, you can't, no. Whereas people who were Creole in New Orleans were able to go to society balls, deb balls, etc.
Is Creole specifically partly black? I thought it was just like a term for like swamp people or something.
Well, that's the thing. They have a term down there called redbone, which means that you can trace your lineage to the Indians there. And then the Creole was the idea that you were probably mixed with somebody who was black or had an unknown mix. And then there were the Acadians who'd come down from Canada. And they were the French speakers. They brought in what everybody would adopt to become the Creole language.
Well, that's what the word Cajun is, a corruption of Arcadian.
And so the New Orleans thing was just a mixed bag of things, and many people just did not know. But here it really did matter, because like I said, my grandmother was, quote, tainted by her uncles, her great uncles, having an affair, having claimed, these children in his will, having granted them their freedom, having given their money, and having directed his kin to send them north for an education.
I learned that Cajun thing from watching Justin Wilson, because he, on one of his programs, he had an opening. We had a little animated boat going around the tip of Florida from Canada and up into the Delta, and he would explain, where the word Cajun came from and all this. And that was such a fun show to watch. It was very relaxing.
Wasn't he the one that he goes, and now you put a little wine in it, but first you put a little wine in you, and then a little more wine in the recipe, then more wine in you?
and that show is so old that had a live audience, and when he mentioned putting hot sauce in the food, these women in the audience would go, oh, like, oh, hot stuff, no. And when he mentioned drinking wine, they would laugh like, haha, it's such an evil thing, drinking wine. Oh.
You got me into eating hot stuff. The only curry I'd ever had been in the Caribbean, and that was really good, so I was willing to try the Indian curry that you had from the Southeast Asian, whereas mine was the Indian curry of the Indies, the Caribbean. And anyway, I love hot stuff now, thanks to you.
Huh, okay. Well, we're approaching the end of the show, and I'm trying to think how to wrap this up. Oh God, I had so much tea. And I was thinking I'd be crazy-headed by now, but I'm not, so it may kick in later. Just jerking around with my schedule is just not good. So, anything to add?
No, but we should talk about food more often.
Yeah, we ought to have, more specific themes, like food or places we knew in the old days or stuff. All right, so anyway, I guess that's it. So bye-bye.